Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Buddy Cianci, and I'm mayor of the greatest city in America, Providence, Rhode Island. On behalf of all the residents of the capital city, I am proud and honored to welcome to America's most dynamic and apparently democratic city, the current and next President of the United States of America, William Jefferson Clinton. "38 days from now, we will continue to build a bridge to the future, as glorious as the bridges that span the rivers of our Renaissance city. 38 days from now, we will re-elect a president whose terms of office will span the 20th and the 21st century. 38 days from now, Providence will be in the vanguard of returning to office the leader of the free world, whose vitality, whose vigor, whose ideals, decisions, and policies represent a restoration of economic growth, a renewal of opportunity, and a resurrection of all of the promise and possibility, the power and the glory of the greatest country on earth, America." I'm honored to join with President Clinton, the distinguished members of this podium today who have served us so well in public service, and with the thousands of you. You know, as an independent, not bound by party politics, I guess I have kind of a license to say that the best person to be president of this United States is Bill Clinton. And just as Senator Claiborne Pell has done such a marvelous job for 36 years, as a champion of civil rights and human rights, and who will remain renowned in American history for his crafting of our nation's most essential educational initiative ever, the Pell Grant. Senator Pell, we're going to miss you a whole lot. And to Jack Reed, who's going to be our next United States Senator, who has never forgotten his roots and never forgotten the city of Providence. He, amongst all of us here, and maybe even including the president, is going to have one of the toughest jobs in America, because he's got to fill the shoes of Senator Claiborne Pell. But I know he's up to the job. Congressman Kennedy and certainly Lieutenant Governor Wagan, who will be our next congressman, have all proven that they care so much for the cities of America. You know, Providence proudly welcomes a man who stands on the pivotal point of America, of the world, to a city that rings out with renewal, and to a city that is really home to a lot of firsts, whether it's a gun court or tax initiatives or whatever. But the job of being a mayor is not magic, even though our city might be. A mayor needs the support of a president, and he has to have a philosophy that deals with what is so important to people who live in cities: safe streets, good education and social services, generous jobs and job training, affordable housing, and a myriad of opportunities need to be developed for cultural and development and also recreation. When we asked for more police on our streets, President Clinton responded, assisting us with more community police officers through the Cops More program. He did that. And when we asked for improvements to our housing stock, for more affordable housing for our low and middle income families, funding for our city's community centers, and for a host of nonprofit agencies, President Clinton saw to it that our community development block grant funding was not cut, as had been threatened by others and by the Republicans. He stood up tall for the cities of America and for us. And the same goes with the fact that he designated Providence as an enterprise city, one of 65 in America. And I can tell you without any hesitation or equivocation that when it comes to cities and leadership for those people who have sometimes been forgotten, Bill Clinton, supported by Jack Reed and Lieutenant Governor Reagan and Congressman Kennedy and Senator Pell, have always meant so much to this beautiful city. People say the city looks great today, and it does. Well, we didn't do it alone here. We had help from everybody sitting behind me at this microphone. So, Mr. President, 38 days from now, the city of Providence and the state of Rhode Island will give you, percentage-wise, the biggest plurality that any president ever in American history has earned. You have earned it. And we not only wish you success and luck, but we also want you to come back again and again, because every time you come, you give a tremendous amount of help to all of us and inspiration. So at this time, I'd like to thank you. I'd like to give you a key to the city, if I could. And of course, a flag of the city of Providence that we're all so very proud of. Thank you. I've already given him a jar of my marinara sauce in Washington. Welcome. It's a great day for our city, and at this time we're going to hear from a man who has dedicated himself to public service and will do a great job replacing Jack Reed as Jack goes on into the Senate, our Lieutenant Governor and next Congressman, Lieutenant Governor Robert Reagan.
How about a big round of applause for Buddy Cianci? I'll be honest with you. We were all afraid he was bringing out the marinara sauce just then. We're here really to celebrate two wonderful, very hard-working people who have made all of our lives so better. And that is Bill Clinton and Jack Reed. When you take a look at what they have done for us, when you take a look at what they have done for our children, you have taken a look at what they have done for our seniors. In education, making sure that all of our children have good quality education, our youngest and particularly higher education. That's because of Bill Clinton and Jack Reed. And when we talk about health care, all the other pals and the pundits will talk about different things, but because of Bill Clinton, we are having a revolution in health care for the betterment of all of us. Thank you, Bill Clinton. And to us in the Northeast and Rhode Island, jobs and jobs and jobs is so very important. Bill Clinton believes in that. He knows how to turn this country around, and he knows how to make Rhode Island work. He and Jack Reed in the Senate are going to create more and more jobs for Rhode Island, more jobs for the country, because that's what he wants to do, build bridges to the future and not to the past like Bob Dole does. And Patrick Kennedy is right in there with them fighting, but we need your help right now. Are you going to re-elect Patrick Kennedy to the U.S. Congress? And are you going to elect Jack Reed to the U.S. Senate? And are you going to give 4 more great years to Bill Clinton? And when you're in there voting for all those people, do one thing for my wife. Please vote for me, too. Thank you. Someone who perhaps needs no introduction, who has been everywhere in the state of Rhode Island doing great work, but particularly in the 1st Congressional District. He has a famous last name and a pretty damn good first name, too. But most of all, he works hard for the people of Rhode Island. Would you please give a warm welcome for your Congressman, Patrick Kennedy.
Thanks. Thank you, Bob. And I'd say I think we can all rest assured that you will be our next congressman from the 2nd District. But we're not going to take it for granted. We're going to work to elect you as the next congressman from Jack Reed's district, Bob Wagon. Give them all a round of applause. I'm also proud to be here with my colleagues in state government. Senate Leader Paul Kelly, House Majority Leader George Carullo, and Speaker John Harwood. They are 3 great Democratic leaders for our state who are effectively running the government in this state. A little double entendre there. And when it comes to effectively fighting for this state and for its working class families, we already have a leader who has taken up the mantle of Senator Claiborne Pell as a leader in education, and that is our friend and my colleague and the next United States Senator, Jack Reed. And when Rhode Islanders give Bill Clinton the largest plurality of votes than any other state, and Mr. President, even more than Arkansas, we hope, for that landslide victory that you're going to have in this November, it will be because we know the difference between your predecessor, who claimed that he was the education president, and who you are, and that is, you are the education president. We salute you. In building that famous bridge to the 21st century, it is President Bill Clinton and Vice President Al Gore who understand that in this information age, in this global economy, you don't build that opportunity society, as Newt Gingrich likes to say, while slashing the investment this country makes in educating its people. When Senator Claiborne Pell first introduced the Pell Grant, it accounted for 75% of tuition assistance in going on to higher education. Today, 75% of tuition assistance comes in the form of student loans. And not only have the Republicans targeted the in-school interest subsidy for those student loans, meaning now the interest begins to accrue the day the student takes the loan out, not 6 months after they graduate. But listen to this. In their effort to cut taxes, and they say they're for the middle class, but in their efforts to cut taxes for the middle class, they rejected the Democratic alternative, which was to allow students to deduct the interest on those student loans from their taxes, so we know the real record of the Republican Congress. And it's President Bill Clinton who's making sure that we continue with the direct loan program so that the banks don't saddle young people and working people who are wanting to go back to university and continuing education with additional service charges, which is going to happen if the Republicans get away with what they want to do, and that is to funnel all the student loans through the banks. Our state takes pride in the education grant that bears the name of our senior United States Senator, and that is Senator Claiborne Pell. Millions of students across America have been able to fulfill their dreams because of these Pell Grants. And when Republicans tried to take away these dreams, it was President Bill Clinton and Senator Pell who drew a firm line in the sand. We have with us today a woman who can speak from her heart about the difference the Pell Grant has made in her own life. Dawn Fairweather was born in Providence, attended Hope High School, and received her GED in 1985. She is a mother of 2, works part-time, and goes to CCRI, where a Pell Grant will allow her to major in computer engineering, a skill she will need to be competitive in the workplace of the next century. This dream of hers would not come true without the Pell Grant. This dream would not come true under a Newt Gingrich America. Thanks to President Bill Clinton, Dawn Fairweather and her family will have more opportunities and greater hope in the future because of the work of President Bill Clinton. And now it is my honor to introduce this wonderful woman, Dawn Fairweather. Give her a warm round of applause.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I would first like to thank President Clinton and all honored guests for this tremendous opportunity. I am greatly honored and privileged to be here with such great individuals. I would like to say just a few words of the importance of federal education assistance programs. Programs such as the Pell Grant and student loans, which have enabled me to pursue my goals. Just a few years ago, I was a single mother and a student at Rhode Island College. I didn't know how I would raise a child and pay for my education if it had not been for federal student aid. After several years of hard work, I would soon receive a degree in computer engineering. My degree will give me the opportunity to be successful in the very competitive job market. The federal educational assistance program, like the College Work-Study program, will give me a fair chance to succeed and prosper. In addition to my prospect for the future, I am currently the president of DECR, our national student organization at the Community College of Rhode Island's Providence campus. We need leaders such as President Clinton to keep these programs alive. Education is too vital for our future. We have here in Rhode Island a person who is the greatest defender of educational opportunities in the country. Senator Claiborne Pell doesn't brag about all he has accomplished for students everywhere, but over 35 years of Rhode Island's own Senator Pell has pushed the country forward to a point where everyone, no matter how much money they have, can get a great education. Unfortunately, there are those who want to turn back the clock on everything that Senator Pell has done. They want to make it hard for us to have our dreams come true. They want a college education to be an almost impossible dream. My fellow Rhode Islanders and Mr. President, it is my honor and privilege to introduce the father of Pell Grants, the man who has brought education into the lives of millions of Americans, a man who we all know and respect, a man who we will miss. Please help me welcome Senator Claiborne Pell.
That was a very, very moving story, and I congratulate Dawn for all she has accomplished. I'm delighted that the Pell Grant program helped her, and there's no greater satisfaction to public service than translating ideas into events and helping people, and that's just what the Pell Grants do. And Mr. President, we welcome you to Rhode Island. We thank you for the inspired leadership you give our nation and our party, and look forward to your hands on the reins of the country for the next 4 years. As I reach the end of my 36 years as your senator, let me say simply, the greatest joy of my life has been to be able to serve the people of this wonderful state. And I thank you for placing your trust in me for such a long time. I'm probably getting out just at the right moment. But it's easier to leave the Senate knowing that Jack Reed is there to succeed me. For the last 6 years, Jack and I have been working closely together on education issues. It's been a Pell Reed team, and we've had a pretty good record. And Jack is smart, he cares deeply about people, he works as hard as anyone I've ever known, and is tough. He'll fight for Rhode Island, just as he's done heavy lifting for our state these past years. And all he needs now, all Jack needs now, is your help, your support, your votes, and he'll be our next United States Senator. God bless.
Thank you, Senator Pell. You honor me today with your kind words, but you've honored this state and this nation with 36 years of outstanding service. We love you, we respect you. You have been our leader for so long. Mr. President, in Rhode Island, we have a term for selfless service to the public and unquestioned integrity, and that term simply is Claiborne Pell. We're also honored today with the presence of Noella Pell. Her grace, her decency has added so much to their accomplishments together, and we must recognize Mrs. Pell today. Mr. President, welcome. It is fitting that we are in Station Park. This is Rhode Island's stop on the train to the future, which you're conducting so magnificently. This overwhelming and enthusiastic crowd is graphic evidence of the deep respect and affection that we have for you, Mr. President. Thank you for joining us today in Providence. It is indeed fitting that we are sharing this podium with Senator Pell. For like you, Mr. President, my life has been shaped by educational opportunities, and Claiborne Pell has dedicated his life to ensuring that every American has a good education. Like you, Mr. President, I came from a working family, the son of a custodian from Cranston. Cranston, the home of the National Little League champions. By the way, Mr. President, I almost qualified for the team. I made the height test, but I was a couple of months too old. Even though I grew up in modest circumstances in Cranston, I was fortunate. I had the opportunity to go to West Point, to the Kennedy School at Harvard, and to Harvard Law School. As president, you have recognized and fought for education for all of our citizens. Your leadership prompted the Congress to pass Goals 2000, a federal catalyst for local reform of elementary and secondary education, with real standards and tough accountability for our schools so that every student succeeds. Working with Senator Pell, I was proud to lead the fight in the House as he led it in the Senate so that your good legislation would pass. You also believe so strongly in the School to Work program, because you know that we have to prepare every American for the world of work. Today, more than any time in our history, because of international competition, jobs go to places where there is either the best workers or the cheapest workers. And America must have the best workers. Because we can never accept the impoverishment of the American worker as the price of international competition. You have led the fight to make college more affordable through your direct loan program. And today, I proudly join you in supporting your proposal to ensure that tax deductions are available for interest on student loans and tax credits are available for post-secondary education in America. This campaign before us is not simply about programs and policies. It is about whether we will continue to provide opportunity to all of our citizens, the opportunity to learn, the opportunity to earn, the opportunity for our seniors to live in dignity, and the opportunity for all of us to be part of a community of responsible citizens. Mr. President, as you lead us forward to victory in this campaign, you raise high the standard of opportunity and hope. You call us to our highest ideals and remind us all in America that a kid from Hope, Arkansas, and a kid from Pontiac Avenue in Cranston can dream great dreams and see those dreams become the deeds of good, effective government to help our people and to ensure the success of the next generation of Americans. Mr. President, you have kept faith with the fundamental tenet of this country and the noblest impulse of our party. We must give every American the opportunity to use his or her talents to build their own security and to contribute to a strong and decent America. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege to introduce the President of the United States, Bill Clinton.
Thank you. Good morning, Rhode Island. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for being here in such large numbers and with such great good spirits. You deserve these good spirits because our country is on the right track to the 21st century. Mayor Cianci, thank you for that wonderful welcome and for your exuberant leadership. Under that leadership, as I saw when I drove into town today, Providence has become, once again, not only a truly historic city, but a wonderfully beautiful one. It's an honor for me to be here in this great place. Thank you, Secretary of State James Langevin, for being here, for being on this platform with me, and for serving well, and for embodying the proposition that every person in this country ought to have the chance to live up to his or her God-given capacities. Thank you for serving. I want to thank the legislative leaders, Governor Sondland, the other distinguished citizens of Rhode Island who are here. I want to say a special word of thanks to the people who provided our music, the Cranston High School West Marching Band, the Westerly High School Jazz Band, and the Holy Cross Cathedral Church Gospel Choir. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. Dawn Fairweather, thank you for standing up here as a living symbol of what our common efforts are all about, to build a bridge to the 21st century we can all walk across. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor Bob Wagan, for running for Congress. We'll sure need you there, as you saw over the last 2 years. And thank you, Patrick Kennedy, for serving with such energy and determination. You know, I thought I had energy until I met Patrick Kennedy. I don't know if he ever sleeps, but he certainly never stops working for the people of Rhode Island, and I thank him for what he has done. Thank you, Senator Claiborne Pell and Mrs. Pell, for a lifetime of service to this state and to our nation. Thank you not only for your dedication to education, but also for your work for the cause of world peace and for all you have done to advance it. And finally, Senator, after so many years in which our national politics have become too mean, too personal, too divisive, and too full of hot air, it was a real honor for me to stand up here and watch you once again in positive, graceful, constructive tones set out what is best about our country, best about our Constitution, and best about public service. We wish you well, we love you, and we thank you. And thank you, Jack Reed, also for a lifetime of service, beginning with your career at West Point, culminating now in your soon-to-be ascendance to the United States Senate, for representing the American dream. It's alive and well, and unlike some, you want it to be alive and well for everyone else as well, and we thank you for that. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I am especially glad to be here in Rhode Island today and with Senator Pell to bring you some exciting news that occurred late last night. Last night, we reached a broad bipartisan agreement on the budget for the government next year. It is good for America because it continues to move us toward a balanced budget while protecting, not violating, our values. It is especially exciting for me because the budget adopts my program to continue our advances in education. And it is a fitting tribute to Senator Claiborne Pell's last session of Congress because, and I don't think he knows this yet, the budget we agreed to last night contains the biggest increase in Pell Grant scholarships in 20 years. The budget will put 40,000 more young children in Head Start. The budget fully funds our commitment to the Technological Literacy Initiative, which will connect every classroom in every school in America to the information superhighway by the year 2000. It protects our environment by funding clean air, clean water, and safe food. It recognizes that we are both a nation of immigrants and a nation of laws. It builds on our approach to combat illegal immigration at the borders, in the workplace, and in the criminal justice system, but it does so without hurting innocent children or punishing legal immigrants. Thank goodness we have turned that around. It restores the anti-drug funding I asked Congress to pass, including full funding of the Safe and Drug-Free Schools program to give our children something to say yes to early in life so they don't get in trouble in the first place. I hope we have ended the ill-advised attempt to move away from that. Safe and drug-free schools, the DARE program, people going into our schools, working with our kids, that's the way to go, and I'm proud that the Congress agreed last night. It enacts the terrorism proposal I made last month, anti-terrorism proposal, and puts into effect Vice President Gore's Commission's recommendation on increased airport security measures, making air travel safer for all Americans and those who come here. It ends, and I hope for good, the attempts of Congress to stop our commitment to putting 100,000 more police officers on our streets. It continues the program until we finish the job of putting those 100,000 police out and making all of the streets of America safer for our children and their families to walk. And in a marked departure from the congressional efforts of just several months ago, it not only reflects an abandonment of their attempts to repeal the ban on assault weapons, but it accepted my recommendation that we expand the Brady Bill to say that now that we've taken guns away or prevented guns from going to 60,000 felons, fugitives, and stalkers because of the Brady Bill, it's time to extend that and say you shouldn't get a handgun if you beat up your spouse or your child either. Thank you, thank you, thank you. In the last 3 months, as the American people have made it clear that they have no intention of seeing our country torn apart and divided over a radical agenda, we have restored a measure of bipartisanship and working together in Washington. Look what happens when you abandon extremism in favor of working together. The Kennedy-Kassebaum health care reform bill, making 25 million Americans eligible to keep their health insurance when they change jobs and say they can't be denied it if someone in their family gets sick. A welfare reform bill that says we will continue our national commitment to health care and nutrition for poor families. We will spend more money on child care when people on welfare take jobs. But we will develop now a community-based system of dealing with poor families so that every community in this country can and must take responsibility for moving people from welfare checks to paychecks. It is a good thing for this country. On October the 1st, just a few days away, 10 million Americans will get an increase in their minimum wage because of the minimum wage increase. And we have made every small business in the country eligible for a greater tax cut if they spend more money in their business. And in the same legislation, we made it easier for people in small businesses to take out pensions for themselves and their employees, and for the employees of small businesses to take those pensions with them when they go from job to job. And in the same piece of legislation, there is a $5,000 tax credit for people who adopt children. There are so many children out there that need a home. I hope this will help them to find it. And just a couple of days ago, I passed a piece of legislation which protects mothers and newborns from being thrown out of the hospital within a day after the children are born. Ladies and gentlemen, the budget agreement we reached last night, make no mistake about it. Yes, it reflects my priorities, but it was reached because it reflects your priorities, and you have been speaking loud and clear about what kind of America you want to go into the 21st century. It's a victory for your values. It's a victory for our country. Thank you so much for making yourselves heard. This agreement proves that if we work together, instead of pointing our fingers at one another, we can do what we need to do. We can balance the budget, invest in our people, keep our streets safe, stay on the right track. We can produce results for the American people. Ladies and gentlemen, there are a lot of things that are said in every election, but you know, when you get right down to it, the real issue is whether, after all is said and done, America produces more people like Dawn Fairweather or not. The real issue is whether we are working together to create the conditions and give ourselves the tools to make the most of our own lives, to build good work lives and good families and strong communities and a strong nation. I heard Dawn telling her story. Right before I saw Dawn, I met a person from Providence that I hoped I've helped to make a little famous. Her name is Marilyn Concepcion, and she's standing over there. Stand up, Marilyn. I saw Marilyn spoke at the Democratic Convention to tell her story, but I hope I've helped to make her a little famous. I'm going to do this because I saw Senator Dole doing this the other day. I think it's all right. I wrote a book about what I thought was at stake in this country, in this election, and going to the 21st century, called Between Hope and History. And I started the section on opportunity with Marilyn's story from Providence, Rhode Island. An immigrant from Puerto Rico, a high school dropout, a person who worked many jobs, a person who got involved in one of our AmeriCorps programs, City Year, one of the best programs in the country, and Rhode Island has just voted to go statewide with City Year, where young people are given a chance to work in their communities, to solve problems, to help people, and in the process earn money to go back to school. And this young immigrant lady, an AmeriCorps graduate, a public servant in City Year, a high school dropout, is about to start or just started her second year at Brown University, one of the finest institutions of higher education in America. I believe we did the right thing to resist those efforts to cut the Pell Grant program and instead expanded it. That means more Dawn Fairweathers. And I believe we did the right thing to start AmeriCorps and then to stop them from doing away with it. It means more Marilyn Concepcions. That's what this election is all about. That's what this country is all about. That's what our future is all about. This is not an accident, and this is not confined to a few people. Yesterday I was in the great and the very big state of Texas. And I was in Longview, Texas, a town of about 70,000 people, in the morning for a rally like this. There were lots of people there. After the rally, I did as I customarily do. I walked down along the line here and shook hands with people. And within the course of 5 minutes, I met the following people. I met a young 34-year-old woman, a single mother of 2 children, who went back later than most young people do and served in AmeriCorps and was using her money to go to the local junior college to start her life again so she could support her children. And then I met a woman who was very emotional, who said to me, "Mr. President, I'm so grateful that the family leave law was passed because my husband had cancer, and I could spend some time with my husband and not lose my job. I think America is better because of that. I think we were right to pass the family leave law, and those who opposed it were not." And then I met a man in a camouflage jacket, a military jacket, who was there with his wife and his daughter in a wheelchair, who served our country with honor in Vietnam, who was exposed to Agent Orange, and as has happened too many times, his child had spina bifida, and she had had 12 operations. And in that bill which ended drive-by pregnancies, we also said at long last and too late, we're finally going to give some help to those people. They're qualifying for disability. They're qualifying for medical support. Their sacrifice should not be visited on their children, and if it is, we'll do our best to make it right. That's what this country is all about. That's what this country is all about, and that's what this choice is all about. We have to decide some big questions. We all know how much the world is changing. Think how much the way we work and live and relate to each other and the rest of the world has changed in the last few years, and think how much it will change in the future. We know that it's going to change. The young people in this audience today, they'll be doing jobs, many of them that haven't even been invented yet. Some of them will be doing work that has not been imagined yet. Yesterday, I had the great honor of welcoming home to Houston to the space program there, the Johnson Space Center, Shannon Lucid, after her long, miraculous stay in space. When she was a young girl, she told someone she wanted to be a rocket scientist, and the adult said, there is no such thing, and if there were, it wouldn't be a woman. Well, today, there are a lot of rocket scientists, and a lot of them are women, and a lot of young girls were thrilled to see Shannon Lucid staying in space for 6 months. And I can tell you that every time we go into space, we gain new knowledge that helps us here at home in preserving the environment and advancing the frontiers of medical science. Every time we do that, we push back the frontiers of human knowledge and create new opportunities for our people to make a living in ways that make the most of their God-given capacities. So I say, I think we were right. President Kennedy was right to support the space program, and those who opposed it then were not right. I'm glad President Kennedy did that, and I'm proud to still be supporting the frontiers of America's exploration at home and in the heavens. When you come down to it, there are a few big questions that we have to ask. And this is a truly historic period in our history. You have seen from the debates of the last 4 years two starkly different views of our future and what we should do as a people. And you have to decide, do we want to build a bridge to the future, or do we really believe we can build one to the past? I believe we have to build a bridge to the future. It is America's historic mission to always go into the future. Do we believe? Do we really believe that our money is wasted when we give a small portion of it to give Dawn Fairweather a chance to get an education, or Marilyn Concepcion a chance to work in City Year? Is our money wasted if we give a small portion of it to the Pell Grants, to the Head Starts, to the preservation of our shared environment? Do we really believe you'd be better off if you were on your own? Or don't you think the First Lady's right? It does take a village to raise a child and to build a country. Folks, 4 years ago, the people of Rhode Island were very good to me. But I ask you to take me on faith. You didn't really know. After all, I'd never been in Congress or the Senate, never worked in an administrative capacity in the federal government. I was just the governor of a small state. You can identify with that. Some said a governor of a small state had no business being president. But one thing you learn in a small place is that hot air doesn't get you very far because people find you out. And it seemed to me that it was time to stop the finger pointing in Washington and start asking, what can we do to roll up our sleeves and make this country a better place? How can we work together? How can we move forward? Now you don't have to take it on faith. You've got some evidence. And I want to ask you in the next 38 days to talk to your friends and neighbors in this state and beyond the borders of this state about the evidence and the stakes for the future, because there's no guesswork now. I said I wanted to take this country into the next century with the American dream alive for every person who was responsible enough to work for it. I said I wanted our country to be the world's strongest force for peace and freedom and prosperity. And I said that I believed we had to go into the 21st century as a stronger American community, respecting our diversity, not being torn apart by it as so many other places in this old troubled world are. And that if we did those things, opportunity for all, responsibility from all, an American community in which all have a place, our best days were still ahead. The evidence is in. We are on the right track. Now you have to go out and convince the rest of the American people that that is exactly the case. You know, compared to 4 years ago, just listen to this. We have 10.5 million more jobs, the lowest unemployment in 7.5 years. The unemployment rate in Rhode Island is exactly half what it was when I became the President of the United States. Home ownership is at a 15-year high. The deficit has been cut by 60% and has gone down 4 years in a row for the first time since before the Civil War in the 1840s. We are moving in the right direction. A couple of days ago, we got some news that really warmed the hearts of those of us who belong to our political party, because it showed that our prosperity, after 20 years of stagnant wages and 20 years of increasing inequality in our country among hardworking people, that things are starting to change. Last year, after inflation, the typical family's income went up by $900, the biggest increase in a decade. Last year, we had the biggest drop in child poverty in 20 years. Last year, we had the biggest drop in the number of poor people in 27 years, and we had the biggest decrease in the inequality of incomes of working families in 27 years. We are on the right track to the 21st century. As the previous speakers have said, we have expanded educational opportunities. As the mayor noted, we have done what we could to work with local communities to bring the crime rate down, and the crime rate in America has gone down for 4 years in a row. There are almost 2 million fewer people on welfare. Child support collections have gone up almost 50% by $3.8 billion. And that's one of the reasons people are moving off welfare, because parents are being required to assume responsibility for their children again. The Family and Medical Leave Act not only helped that lady in Longview, Texas, who talked to me yesterday. 12 million times American families have been able to take a little time off from work when a baby was born or a child or a parent was sick without losing their jobs, and it's been good for our economy. I'd like to see it expanded so that families can take some time off to go to regular parent-teacher conferences and regular doctor's appointments with their children or their parents. I want to see a country where people can succeed at home and at work. One of the biggest challenges facing us today is that the American people are working harder than ever before, and almost every parent of any income group can cite a few examples in life when they were afraid that the demands of their work took away from the responsibilities of their parenthood. There is no more important job than raising our children. We have to keep a strong economy. That's what things like the Family and Medical Leave Act are for. We have a more productive economy when people are not worried sick about their children while they're at work. That is the kind of America I am trying to build. Now I think we also have to face the fact that we have to build on the pioneering work of Claiborne Pell to keep America's educational opportunities and standards and performance up to the finest in the world. And there are two things I'd like to emphasize in particular. 40% of the children in this country who are in the 3rd grade still can't read a book on their own. It's going to be very hard for them to master the demands of the information age if that's so. I want to mobilize an army of AmeriCorps volunteers, reading specialists, senior citizens to go in and work with parents and work with schools to make sure that by the year 2000, every 8-year-old in this country can pick up a book and say, I can read this all by myself. When we finish the work of hooking up all of our classrooms to the information superhighway, for those of you who aren't computer geniuses like our children are, but I'm not, let me explain in plain language what that means. It means not only computers and educational materials in the computers and teachers trained to work so that they're not letting the kids get ahead of them on the computers. It means something else. When you hook all these computers into the internet, into the World Wide Web, into these other information networks, what that means is that for the first time in the entire history of the United States, the children in the poorest inner city schools, the children in the most remote rural schools will have access to the same information at the same level of quality in the same time as the children in the wealthiest and best public and private schools in the United States. It has never happened before. We can do it now, and we must do it now. And I want, finally, to make sure that we have literally opened the doors of college education to every person in this America who's willing to work for that without regard to their income. And I have 3 specific proposals to add to what we're doing. Number 1, I think more Americans should be able to save in an IRA but withdraw from that retirement account without tax consequences if they're going to pay for a college education, a health care emergency, buying a home. Number 2, I believe that we should give people like Dawn literally the cost of at least a community college education so that we can say for the year 2000 we have made 2 years of education after high school just as universal as a high school diploma is today. And it will be easy to do. It will be easy to do. I propose a tax credit which would let people take from their income taxes, dollar for dollar, the cost of the typical community college tuition in America. It will be a wonderful thing. We can overnight say the community college system is accessible to all of you, and it will pay us back, and we can pay for it. And finally, I think we ought to make up to $10,000 a year of college tuition deductible for any kind of higher education. 4-year colleges, medical school, veterinary school, you name it. Will you help me build that bridge to the 21st century? We need to build a bridge to the 21st century that continues our work to prove that we can clean up our environment and grow our economy. There are still some people who don't believe that. But let me tell you, there are still 10 million children growing up within 4 miles of toxic waste dumps. If you'll give us 4 more years, we'll clean up the 500 worst dumps so that we can say our children, they're growing up next to parks, not poison. Will you help me build that bridge to the 21st century? Finally, let me say we've got to keep this economy going, growing, and strong. That means we do need to balance the budget because that keeps interest rates down. That keeps your home mortgage, your car payments, your student loan payments, your credit card payments down. It keeps the interest rates on business loans down so more people can borrow money to grow new businesses and hire new people. But we cannot do it in a way that violates our values and tears us apart as a country. We do not need to destroy the Medicare program in order to save it and balance the budget, and I don't intend to let it happen. We do not need to revoke our historic guarantee of health care coverage to poor mothers and their little children, to the elderly who are in nursing homes, whose children are often middle-class workers who would be poor if it weren't for Medicare helping their parents. And we must not do it to families who have family members who have disabilities. That keeps them in the middle class and gives their family members the dignity of decent health care without driving the families into poverty. We cannot do it by cutting back on education or the environment or on research. Here we are celebrating the space program. You clap for that. There's more on the way. We've doubled the life expectancy of people with HIV in just 4 years because of medical research and the rapid movement of drugs into the marketplace. Many of you were very moved by Christopher Reeve's speech at the Democratic Convention, calling for more research, dealing with spinal cord injuries and other medical problems. Let me tell you, just a few days before he gave that speech, for the first time ever, a laboratory animal with a completely severed spine showed movement in its lower limbs because of nerve transplants into that spine. No telling what we can do if we keep pushing back the frontiers of knowledge. We cannot walk away from the future. So there it is. You have the evidence. You have 4 years of proof that we're on the right track. That saying we're building a bridge to the future, saying it takes a village, saying that community and opportunity and responsibility are the right way to go. You have a world of evidence around the world where countries are being torn apart when they don't get along with each other, when they discriminate against people based on their race, or their gender, or their ethnicity, or their tribal group, or their religious convictions. This country is in the best shape of any nation in the world to go into that next century, and our best days are still ahead if we vote on November the 5th to build a bridge to the 21st century. Thank you, and God bless you all.